Athing Mu says the joy disappeared and now her coaching partnership is over. This is the daily sports rundown from Sports Talk Tech. 5 stories, about 6 minutes. Let's get started. I think Mo Nikolaev and Bobby Kersee has officially parted ways after 3 years together. Kersee says Mo informed her back in September that she and her husband had since moved from Los Angeles to Dallas. In a way, he framed it like a life decision, not a falling out. And for many in the track and field community, this ends one of the most debated coaching experiments in track and field. Let's be clear, under Kersee, Mo set the American 800-meter record of 154.97, but she also struggled with pressure, injuries, raced sparingly, and she never quite looked like the dominant athlete that we saw when she picked up all those gold medals, and certainly when she was conditioned by Milton Mallard. 2025 in particular was a tough year for her. She failed to make the 800-meter final at the USA's, and she's been open about this. She talks about the idea of running well when she's genuinely happy. And it's clear things didn't work out the way she wanted it to. And for us, the question is not the talent. We've long discussed this. It's whether or not the next chapter for her career, if she can reconnect, make it better, and find that top class running performance that we know she can. Because Mo is one of the most talented athletes we've seen. And I only hope that she'll get better. She'll find her way. Sometimes you have to reflect on setbacks and move forward. But we'll talk more about this on the show in the coming days. But Mo and Bobby Kersee is gone. For some, it's not a surprise. For others, they think it took too long. But it happened right now. And let's see if her career can tick on. Moving along, I want to talk about one of the great franchises in NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're one of the most dominant franchises in the last how many years. And what seems to be a critical moment for them, Patrick Mahomes yesterday suffered a season-ending ACL to his left knee. It's confirmed by an MRI. And the Chiefs also lost to the Chargers. The injury happened with just about 2 minutes left in the game. And it officially knocked Kansas City out of the playoff race, which is one of the big surprises of the season. Not many would have come in thinking that would happen, even though we saw that the team may have been aging somewhat. The interesting thing here is that he's expected to have surgery soon. He'll miss the rest of the season, quite possibly the entire offseason and even the start of next year. So this kills one or snaps one of the most dominant runs in modern NFL history. 10 straight playoff appearances, 9 consecutive division titles. And just like that, it's gone. But all good things must come to an end. The bigger question now for the Chiefs is how do they reset an aging roster without the kind of franchise quarterback available? You'd probably want to reset with Mahomes right there. But he's not going to be there at the start of the season. He's going to need some time to fix that. It could take 6-8 months. It could take much longer depending on how severe the injury is. So we wish him very well. I see people coming in. I see Sherwood coming in. Just doing a quick rundown, a new show here on Sports Talk Tech. All right, moving along, back to track and field. I want to talk a little about Grand Slam track. Grand Slam track has now officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is a reorganization structure here in the United States. The numbers are stark. According to the court filings, the Michael Johnson-led league has less than $50,000 in assets, up to $50 million in liabilities, and hundreds of creditors, which includes the athletes themselves. The league paid about half of the athletes what they owed them in October. Then they failed to secure settlement agreements with vendors, And this now forces what is a court-supervised reorganization. Grand Slam track obviously have also begun to lay off staff. And Michael Johnson has still, put on a brave face in terms of statements. He insists this is a reset, not an ending. And for many of us, the question is whether the league ever returns now depends on everything else in terms of paying the athletes, obviously, paying the creditors. But more importantly, for this league to come back, it would be to restore a level of trust. And after a public financial collapse, I just can't see it. I wish them the very best. I hope that something like that will come back, because track and field is dear to me. It's important. You often want to see a successful track and field meet, especially something that can crack the US market. And Grand Slam tried. I've been critical about the ways in which they did it, but that's the past, obviously. Now, can they find a way to come back? I really don't see it, if I'm being honest with you. I don't see how this comes back, because one, you have to pay these creditors, and to secure new investment requires a level of understanding that the league will survive and it can be successful. And people won't put their money if they don't think that's the case. So we'll see if it comes back, and we'll talk a lot more about it as we in a future live, and we'll break it down some more. All right, moving along. If we thought about one league that doesn't have money, here's one that has a lot of money and quite possibly is destroying its relationship with its fans. FIFA, the governing body for world football, says it's received more than 5 million ticket requests for the 2026 World Cup. And that comes at a point where fans across the world, particularly in Europe and elsewhere, people who are going to have to travel to come to the United States, are complaining about the ticket prices. Tickets for the finals now starts above $4,000. You can get up to $9,000. And that's a markup that is ridiculous. It's 7 times more expensive than the Qatar World Cup in 2022. Group stage matches are not even evenly priced for this World Cup. We're thinking about pricing are on a dynamic scale in terms of teams. So if you follow popular teams, say England, you're going to pay significantly more than following a lesser team. There's no concessions for families or children. And so you have to pony up a lot of money, and supporters groups all over the world are talking about extortion. They think these prices are outrageous. And you would think ticket sales will be halted, but it's one of the greatest spectacles in the world, and FIFA has remained silent on pricing. And the 5 million requests suggest that the demand still outweighs the outrage. And FIFA is in on everything. I mean, I don't know how many of you are following this, but in the context of even reselling the tickets, they're okay with reselling, because they've now launched their own structure for resales in which they'll take a significant portion away from any kind of resale. So the prices would probably even go up even more. So this is a bad situation, I think. I think it's one of the worst things that you can do to fans. It's already a global spectacle. It's going to be in television screens everywhere, but people traveling to see a World Cup game, it's they have to do better. But to say I'm surprised, I'm not. Yeah, I'll get back to you. I see some comments coming through. I'll try to pick up on some of them. Next story I want to touch on, and the last one I want to do on the roundup here today, is one of the most senior figures in global anti-doping issued a blunt warning over the weekend. And I'm not sure if many of you saw this, but his blunt warning was elite drug treats are getting away with it. And so I'm speaking about David Howman, the former head of WADA and now the current chair of the Athletics Integrity Unit. He says the system is not effective enough at catching intentional dopers. And this failure is damaging the credibility of a clean sport. Now, when I saw this, I was slightly surprised by that notion from from the AIU, and I think he's speaking about it in general, not necessarily only about the AIU, in the sense that I think one of the things that I have given credit to the AIU in recent years is that they've been doing a much better job to try and ferret out drug cheats. But it's tough, he's speaking at the WADA Global Conference, and he's criticized the intentional focus on compliance and education, and he's arguing that that kind of work that you're doing is not going to stop sophisticated drug cheats at the top level. And he says even the AIU, which is the gold standard, he thinks they're not doing enough to catch offenders. So the message here for him is simple: is that the anti-dopers need more ambition, or you're going to risk losing trust entirely. So I do hope that there is some shift there, because you just never want to be in a situation where the dopers are doing more than the anti-doping. And we know this for a long period of time, and we've seen some athletes being caught recently again. And there's a lot of things that are coming in the sport and in sports in general that I am against. Obviously, the enhanced games, to all of those things that are at the tip of trying to create an atmosphere where we believe that sport could operate in an unclean environment. Yeah, I don't know. There's also these political things that are happening. You think about the kind of uproar with U.S. anti-doping, things about complaining about what's happening in China as well, and so we have to think seriously about all of those things and what it means to kind of stop that stuff, and because you need a clean sport. I was hopeful many years ago. Obviously, we've introduced, especially in track and field, a biological passport, the blood passport. They're doing stuff to work on sprinting. Perhaps we have to think up much more deeply about the whereabouts violation. Maybe 3 is too much if that's the case, because we've seen athletes intentionally use the whereabouts to get off. So I don't know. We'll touch more about that, but that's a kind of interesting thing that's happening there. All right, that's the roundup I think I have for today. I put some descriptions. I think they're already there in the show notes for if you haven't seen some of these stories and want to spend some more time thinking through some of that. Wasn't planning on spending too long today, but I see a couple comments here. Sherwood initially was saying that's assuming Mo has intentions of continuing track. Now that's a big thing going there, Sherwood. To be honest with you, a lot of people. I've been talking to a few people behind the scenes too. We don't know. I mean, we're not quite sure where her head is. What we do know is that she's a superbly talented athlete, and I think sometimes when we see athletes like those, we want them to continue. We want them to show the sport that level of attention. You want them to put blinders on and just perform and take the sport to another level. Not quite sure if if that's the case. I can never get into athletes' head unless they tell you exactly. I don't really know. You can only observe from afar. And let's see, they haven't announced any setup yet, so I'm not quite sure if there's going to be a continuation. Dallas is an interesting move. I don't really know what kind of setup would be there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see an immediate coaching setup, or we see a shift in plans. But sometimes you have to step away to reassess. The good thing is that she's young. You can come back if you're injury free. If you get the right program in place, then perhaps something could work out. But then the sport also moves on. We saw this year in particular how many athletes that can run 155s and better, and the emergence of other athletes, the Kenyan in the 800 meters. There's so many athletes coming on that you have to be in stellar shape if you're going to be competitive. So we'll see. Sherwood also pointing I was critical of Grand Slam for good reasons. No, I think they made some big mistakes. I was ultra critical early about even the structure of having a track and field meet without field events, and and the downtime and the television product and not having some of the biggest names, especially when you're launching. And we can all argue around that thing. Maybe I remember I had Dan Kaplan on, a business journalist, many months ago, shortly after they decided not to go to LA and to do the LA Grand Slam. And one of the things he was saying is that they bit off more than they could chew. Right there, it was a bit of a lofty type of engagement, thinking that they could just enter a marketplace like this that they weren't ready to tackle. And it's a tough entertainment, sports entertainment in the United States. It's a tough place to be, and so you just don't break in like that. And they just didn't have it. And maybe they shouldn't have just done a one slam or two, or do a test run and see if they could actually do this thing. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. Even coming back, they have to pay the athletes. They have to pay the creditors. I suspect. I think the athletes are more important. Otherwise, I don't think they'll get any kind of a licensing from World Athletics. And if you can't get licensed from World Athletics, then you are going to be in problems to host a meet. Athletes won't come. It won't count towards anything serious in terms of their ranking and anything like that. And they're going to run up against it. I mean, we can be critical of the Diamond League, but it's a spectacle. It works in many contexts. There's a lot of people at many of these events. They're sold out in most places. Here and there, you might find seats, but they're well run, and even a continental tour. And at times, I've said it. Sometimes a couple events at Grand Slam look good with a couple athletes, but then the rest of the lineup look even worse than a continental tour at times. So there's a lot they have to do. I'm not optimistic. I'm not trying to even beat around the bush. I cannot see it coming back. From what I understand and from some of the people I've spoken to in terms of sports business, I don't see it coming back. You have to want to waste money for it to come back, because you got to clear this and then move on. So it's tough in the grand scheme of things. When you look at the money, it's not a lot, but it's in terms from a sports business landscape. But for track and field, it is. So we can't think about it in the grand scheme. We have to put it in the niche area of track and field. So it's a problem. Yeah. Track for All was also saying the Grand Slam track was a great idea, but I'm what I'm not sure I understand what's going on there. But I'm had too much days. Oh yeah. Oh, you mean the meet had too much days? Yeah, it was too long. It was drawn out. It never worked out. So yeah, we'll see. Track for All also says Athing have a lot of mental challenges. She's a great talent from the 200 to 16. Two, I'm not sure how well she can do a two, but I think four for sure. She could be a great athlete. For some reason, I think Bobby wanted her to do 15 as well. I don't know. I wish Athing very well, as we all do. Look, at the end of the day, she has an American record. She has the Olympic title, a world title. It's not the end of the world, right? It's she's gone to the mountaintop. The question is, can she continue to go there if she wanted to? And that's going to take a lot, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sherwood is also saying Fred is peddling that idea that World Athletics will continue to test him when he trains and performs in the enhanced games. Please help us understand this. I find that, yeah, I don't think so. I think he's in violation of anti-doping. I think I have to look at the rules again, but I'm sure he'll be in violation of something. I haven't looked at it in recent times. I can't see it. I suspect he will be tested if he still declares that he's an athlete, because he's still in the elite pool. But I don't think Fred is coming back to real track and field after that. I think he's called it quits. That's my guess. I don't know, to be honest with you. He's not getting any younger either. He's looking. I think this is a payday, and it doesn't look good. It's not something that looks good if you decide to go go out uh, and say that you're going to participate in a sport where people are allowed to take performance enhancing drugs. And as we've mentioned a lot before, even if you're not taking it, you cannot be seen to be supporting that type of thing, right? So, and even we're not even talk even performance enhancing drugs. You think about even recreational drugs in many cases, right? There, the code is also clear on many of those things because when you think about sport, it's not only just about the idea of competing clean, but it's the responsibility and what it means to participate in sport and the very nature of it, the true nature of it. So it's for me, it's a massive problem. I just like it. I you can never tell people how to go earn their money or whatever, but you know, you sign up for certain things and you shouldn't be participating in certain things. Yeah. Uh, Sure, it says if World Athletics does not set up rules to explicitly ban athletes who participate in on games, it's setting the sport up for failure. I agree with you. I think this has to go to a wider level. I think this has to be a wider thing that connects to everybody. All the governing agencies need to get on board as soon as possible. IOC, World Boxing, whatever. Because however these and to be honest with you, I've tuned out of enhanced games in terms of I'm not trying to give it air time to think about what it's gonna do and all that stuff. I see the news clippings here and there, but I try to stay away from it. But all the governing bodies need to get on board. There needs to be some kind of rush meeting to say we're not. If you decide to do that, you effectively are saying that your career is over. So obviously you can't control people at the end of the day, but if you step over there, it should be over. I think that should be plain and simple. You decide to participate in that, it's done. You know, you can't come back, right? Or if you're coming back, you're gonna immediately take a 4-year suspension or something of the sort, then that would either make you think twice about it, or if you're going to make that decision, you're like, okay, my career is finally over and one side of the clean side of the sport, and then go to the other side of the dark side of it. But I, I don't know. But I agree with you. They need to have things in place, and it should be over. Chuck Fall is saying, have you heard anything about Jamaican athletes jumping ship to other countries for coaching or for like allegiance? I haven't heard anything fully new today. If something just dropped in the last couple of days, I'm not aware of. I've been chatting with some people recently, but I have to talk to Leighton too and see what's going on. He's on his pulse is on that really quickly, but we'll see. I know there's a lot of different coaching shifting here and there. It's kind of hard to keep up with some of these things, but that's partly normal in the sport. People are trying to figure out ways to to ensure that their career can get back on track or improve or you name it, find better solutions. In terms of allegiance switching, I haven't seen anything right now. I must admit. But, yeah. Anyway, I thank you guys for stopping through. I wanted to bring 5 stories. I'm trying to think about ways to come much more frequently. If you got, I want obviously I love the live shows, and we'll do some more breakdowns on things and have a lot more interaction and so on. We'll try to get a longer live coming up maybe in the coming days in the evenings. But when some of these stories hit, I just want to touch base on them. Lots happening in sport. Hope if you watch cricket, there's a lot of cricket going on. I think West Indies is going to play again soon. The Ashes has been spectacular for me too, and India, South Africa in these T20s. Try to catch a few of it. Seems like India is doing well there. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you mean changing citizenship? I don't know. I haven't seen anything right away. Is there something new uh, that we should know about? I haven't checked, to be honest with you. Yeah, yeah. I have not checked, but I'll look into it if there's some other stuff. All right, I'm gonna call it a day. Hopefully, you guys have a great rest of your day and chime in, on the rebroadcast and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.